hated the bathroom in our old house before we moved to the new council house. I hated it, absolutely hated it. It's where my dad would call me and he'd shout my name in such a way that I just knew. My brothers were never called, it was just me. He'd always ask me to bring him something like some toilet paper or something, bar of soap. Oh, I hate soap. And it was kept in a cupboard. The loo paper and the soap was kept in a cupboard under the sink in the kitchen. The bathroom was just off our kitchen, and it had a sliding door. It had a really heavy sliding door with kind of like a hook as a lock, and the sliding door was so heavy. And in the bathroom was a bath and a sink, and so the bathroom was just off the kitchen. There wasn't any toilet in our bathroom. That was kind of, as you came in the back door, that was just there on the left hand side. So you'd come into kind of like a little porch, there was the toilet, you'd walk through another door and there was the kitchen, and off there was the bathroom. I think because of building regs now you can't actually have that for some reason or another. But in the bathroom there was a bath and a sink, and it was freezing in that bathroom, absolutely freezing. I remember on the bath there used to be like matey bubble bath. There was Vosine shampoo, that was green, and there was like a plastic jug to sort of like wash our hair or rinse our hair. I used to have really long hair as a child. If anybody knows my daughter, very similar to my daughter. I remember Crest toothpaste in the sink in a really kind of manky old beaker where we used to brush our teeth. It was cold, so cold in that bathroom. It's almost as though I just remember kind of like you could see your breath. It was so cold. And the toilet was just, like I say, just a separate room. And my dad would call me. Wouldn't call my brothers, but he'd call me. Do you remember those crocheted dolls? Well, we used to have one of those with the toilet roll put under. And my dad would always say he needed more toilet roll to put under the dolly, which we weren't allowed to touch. And so I'd take him some toilet roll. And sometimes we'd have to go into the bathroom. There was a bar of soap, and I can smell it now. It was either Lux or Imperial Leather. And the smell, even now, even to this day, at my age, 52, triggers a horrific memory. A memory of, if I'm honest, I mean, I don't really know what I felt back then, but now, the trigger is shame. I feel shameful. I feel dirty. But oh my God, does a bar of soap trigger memories for me? Horrible memories. A bar of soap to me is symbolic of stinging, is symbolic of rough, is symbolic of wanting to cry but holding it back. And even though many people say it was different back then, it was ages ago, why is it still taunting you? Well, do you know what? It was my body, it was me, and it was my childhood. But even now, still today, I know what happened to me. It was wrong. I was violated. I was abused. And I remember. This is not a joke. This is not made up. I remember that bar of soap triggers something in me. Something in me that makes me feel poorly. That makes me feel shameful. That makes me feel ill. I can't explain. Dirty. My abusers confused me. I was a child. I was innocent. I was vulnerable. I thought it was normal. I also did not want to get into trouble. I didn't want my mum to have her temper. So abuse became normal for me. Putting on the fire was bad. So my uncle could do whatever he wanted to me because he knew I was scared of my mum. I'd put the fire on, so it was my fault. My mum would be cross with me. My granddad, I was his favourite. My mum would yell at me because she wanted to be his favourite. It was only my dad who said, "Don't tell Mummy. Don't tell Mummy, will you?" Why did he say that? I don't even know why he said that. Obviously, I do now, but back then I don't. And even if I wanted to tell my mum, I don't think she would have listened. I was a pain, I was inconvenient. Mother made me feel she had no life because of me. I'm not sure if my brothers felt the same. Once she said to me, "You were never wanted. Your brothers were, but you were never wanted. You were a mistake. You were a replacement." And I wonder if my dad played on that vulnerability with me. My dad, the first man in my life, the most important man in a child's life, but particularly in a girl's life. My mum told me boys were easier, daughters were a pain. And at the new house, I really became a bit of a cleaner. I was a girl, it was expected. I was ironing by the age of 10, hoovering, polishing. It was never enough though, it was never good enough. My mum was awful. She'd hover over me while I hoovered, saying, "You've missed that bit, you've missed this bit. Call this polishing, it's rubbish. Did you turn the iron on? Because this still looks a mess," and throw it back at me. Nothing was ever good enough. I wasn't good enough. Words, I remember words, her cutting words, but my mum was cunning. She was clever. She must have made out to others that I was bad, because I believe even now, to this day, other members of her family, remember she came from a big family, they don't want anything to do with me. What was wrong with me? Why did my mum not want me? Nothing was ever good enough for her that I did. She would just love to moan. And she'd love to compare me to other daughters, to other mothers, how their daughters were so lovely to their mothers and how I was so wicked. I used to long for a loving mother. I used to long for something different. I knew what was happening was wrong. I knew it was, but I just didn't understand. And everybody seemed to blame me, and it was so confusing. What did I do to my mum to make her not like me? What did I do to my dad for this to be happening? Was this normal? What was happening to me? When others were around, I didn't even recognise my mum. She turned into this laughing, jovial, interesting person that just made life even more confusing for me. I wondered if what my dad was doing to me made my mum not like me. What happened to me? What was happening to me that my dad was doing? Was that making her nasty and horrible to me? Is this a lesson? Am I trying to learn something? It was so confusing. But one of the things I've learnt today as a 52-year-old is you can't change the past. You can't explain the past. And by writing this and by telling you this, by you listening to me, somewhere somebody is acknowledging this, and we are breaking a circle and we are breaking a cycle. I don't want sympathy. I don't want empathy. I just need to be heard and to be told it should never have happened and that it will not happen to others. And as a society today, we will start listening and we will start safeguarding our children. My mother's attitude to me was abuse, was different abuse. It wasn't sexual abuse. It was different abuse. My whole life I have felt different from everybody. I used to apologise all the time. Apologise. In fact, sorry is still a word I use so many times today. My whole life I've tried to make my mother love me. My whole life I've tried to fit in. My whole life I've tried to make sense of all the confusion and the abuse. Did I tell you I can't stand bars of soap? Did I tell you I can't stand bathroom doors being closed? It's only recently, within the past couple of years, I've been able, with my husband's support, to be able to close a bathroom door and to close a bedroom door.